Today was a glorious day. The weather was like summer. We hopped in the car, drove to the Seattle ferry terminal, and bought a round-trip ticket for two to Bremerton. We've never visited Bremerton, and I always wanted to visit a curious garden there called the Elandan Gardens, just off State Highway 16. As we depart Seattle, we can see the city skyline crisply glowing under the deep blue sky. The ferry ride starts at Pier 52 on the Seattle waterfront. The trip takes about an hour and passes by Bainbridge Island to the north and ends up docking at the Bremerton terminal right next to the Puget Sound Naval Shipyards. Our ferry was the Kitsap, a large two-level car and passenger ferry. The ferry was so large that you didn't really feel like you were on the water. The ship deck was very windy, but not too cold. We could see all the Olympic Mountains in the distance as we travel, and numerous sailboats on the water. We took a lot of pictures. Mount Rainier looms brightly in the distance, with tiny sailboats gliding past it. As we passed by Bainbridge Island, we saw a shoreline lined with expensive view homes and sea lions basking in the sun on buoys. Lots of seabirds looking for lunch and skimming along the tops of the wave. As we got close to our destination, we catch a glimpse of the graceful Manette Steel Bridge connecting the city of Manette with Bremerton. Later, we see the famous Puget Sound Naval Shipyard and the Naval Base Kitsap in Bremerton, right next to the ferry dock. Once we docked at Bremerton, we drove to Elandan Gardens. The drive takes us around the Sinclair Inlet of Puget Sound. We started in the tiny gift shop, which has a personality all its own. Here you can find an eclectic collection of home and garden items for every mood and taste you might have. There's a tiny greenhouse which has some tropical plants and lots of Asian art items. The shopkeeper showed us the way to the Bonsai Garden and back. The resident Kitty was our tour guide and accompanied us on the journey through the garden. The garden is the creation of Dan Robinson, who travels all over the world in search of bonsai. The 6-acre site, located on the shores of Puget Sound, was an abandoned, bramble-covered landfill from the 1930s that was never developed. Dan's wife coined the name Elandan, which is a combination of Elan, French for spirit or courage, and Dan, her husband's name, who of course is the spirit behind this incredible bonsai collection and garden. The collection, which includes trees more than 1,000 years old, represents Dan's over 40 years of dedication to the art of bonsai. Leonardo da Vinci, Kublai Khan, and Chinese philosopher Zhu Zai were each alive when some of the trees at Elandan took root. In 1993, Dan, his family, and his son Will Robinson started creating Elandan Gardens. The majority of the trees in the collection were harvested from wild places all over the world, and each specimen exhibits a design induced by hundreds of years of nature's weathering. One of the oldest trees in the collection is a Rocky Mountain juniper, approaching 1,500 years old. Dan's son, Will Robinson, is a successful stone sculptor, and Elandan Gardens features many of his pieces on display in and around the bonsai specimens. On the way back to the ferry terminal, we stopped to see the massive aircraft carriers anchored at the naval base. The giant submarine sail from the USS Parch is in the front courtyard of the Puget Sound Navy Museum. It marks the start to our stroll along the Lewis Mentor Boardwalk. The boardwalk was named after Lewis Mentor, who was regarded as the father of the downtown Bremerton Boardwalk, which he saw to completion during his term as mayor in the early 1990s, despite considerable obstacles. Harborside is located right next to the ferry terminal, along beautiful Sinclair Inlet. We strolled past the playful fountains and along the wide plaza and took in all the sights along the harbor. Our visit to Bremerton has come to an end, and our ferry has arrived to take us back home to Seattle.